Now, before we dive into more advanced topics like functions in Sass, you should first learn how Sass actually handles operations and basic arithmetic expressions. So in this lecture, we're going to use the Sass shell to try out some of the basic expressions we can use. Many people don't even know that Sass actually has this interactive shell, but it does, and it's really useful to get to know the operators in Sass and to see how they actually behave. So let's start it up by using Sass -i, or you can also use -- interactive. Then hit enter, and it's going to take you right into this interactive shell waiting for your input. So now you can actually perform calculations right here and see what Sass actually does with them, so what the result will be. So first of all, you could do something like 3 pixels plus 4 pixels, then hit enter, and it's going to give you 7 pixels as you would have expected. And similarly, you could also do 6 pixels minus 4 pixels. It's going to give you 2 pixels. So performing these simple calculations is really easy with Sass. Now you may also go ahead and do something like 3 pixels times 4 pixels. And Sass is actually going to do this, and it's going to give you 12 pixel times pixel, which is like a square pixel. But this is not a valid CSS value or type. So you wouldn't be able to use this as the size for anything in CSS. But still, Sass will perform this calculation because this may just be a temporary result that you need to actually get to your end result. So you could have something like $size, so your variable is 3 pixel times 4 pixels. But then what you actually want to use in your CSS code may be something like size divided by 6 pixels again, and this is going to be a valid CSS value. So keep in mind that you have to be aware of which data types you're actually using. So if you're multiplying 2 pixel values, you're going to get this square pixel thingy, which you're still going to have to modify to really be able to use it in your CSS. Now you can also perform calculations between different types. So you could also do something like 1 inch minus 6 pixels, and that's going to give us 1.9375 inches. But there are also incompatible types. So the most prominent example would be something like 2em minus 8 pixels, and that's not going to work because em and pixels are not compatible units, so you cannot calculate between them, which makes sense because the em value is actually dependent on the font size of the parent container element. So again, you have to be aware of which data types you're actually using, because you have to make sure to always calculate with compatible units and that your end result will also be a valid CSS unit. Now, as the last basic arithmetic operator, let's also take a look at division in Sass. Now, when you go ahead and do something like 8 pixels divided by 4 pixels, that's not actually going to create any new value for you, like 2 as you may expect, because this is pure CSS syntax. So Sass is actually not going to go ahead and change anything about what you typed in. The easiest way to really perform a division is to just put this into parentheses. So we're going to say 4 pixels divided by 4 pixels in parentheses this time. And that's not going to give you 2 as you may have expected in the first place. Now another way to make Sass actually perform the division is to have a variable, let's say 6 pixels. And of course I shouldn't use an equal sign but a colon. So I'm going to say 6 pixels. And then when we do something like value divided by 2 pixels, then that's actually also going to go ahead and perform the actual division. Because this is not a CSS syntax. It's clearly a Sass variable, so it's also clear that you actually want to perform a division. And of course the same is true if you put the variable on the right hand side of the division, and that's going to give you, well, in this case 4 divided by pixel. So depending on what you wanted to do, maybe I wanted to actually have 24 pixels divided by value. So that's going to be 4. So, well, again, make sure you have the compatible units and that you have a valid CSS type in the end. Alright, so this is basic arithmetic in Sass for sizes in pixels, inches, and so on. And in the coming lecture, you're going to see how you can also do similar things with colors. So try this out for yourself, and then I'll see you in the next lecture.